And and we want you to know there are people on Zoom. That's what that will tell us on occasion. I wanted just to be in with housekeeping. If you're in the back and you have to exit, you know your bathrooms are on your right. When you go out, it's on your right, so you can exit that way. People sort of toward the front can exit out of the front door too. All right, so that would be my big housekeeping. We have wonderful snacks because we know that this time of evening, you can fall asleep just letting the TV look at you. So with these snacks, you have choices over there, but in that cooler, you have iced coffee, you have some fizzy water and regular water. So if you have any desire, we're gonna go for at least 40 minutes watching the film, then we're gonna take a break. We're gonna delve into some of those questions. That's why you should have in front of you some sticky pads and some pencil or pen. If you don't, because you're sitting in an individual chair, hello, my friend. You are with us, we are with you. We will help you get those pens or pencils as you think through and participate. At this time, I look forward to our wonderful leader of the center to come and introduce herself. Please give her a round of applause.
I'm gonna take Win home with me at the end of this because I need that self-esteem boost a lot. You know, when the cats don't even come to meet me at the door, but I thank you, Gwen. Good evening, I'm Melanie Benjamin, I'm the Executive Director of the Center of Belvedere, and I am very pleased to welcome you to the center. Show of hands, who amongst you, this is your first time coming to the center? Like what I'm seeing, because I think this might be our biggest group yet, for the speaker series here, since we started doing it again here at the Center of Belvedere, post-COVID. So welcome. This is our 5th speaker series at the center, The Uncomfortable Truths About Systemic Racism, with a focus on public education tonight. The center is committed to fostering an environment that is just, equitable, and inclusive, because the only healthy environment, which is what we do, healthy aging, the only healthy environment is one that reflects and respects the rich diversity of the communities that we serve. This speaker series was crafted by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, a group of dedicated volunteers who champion the center's healthy aging mission and work to ensure that we are a welcoming environment for all. We are truly grateful for their dedication, advocacy, and leadership. We wouldn't have these sessions without them. So big round of applause for the DIC. If you're interested in attending future installments of this speaker series, they will go through January of 2025. Please visit our website at www.thecentercville.org. Again, my sincere thanks to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, to tonight's leaders, Gwen, and Bernadette, and missing people, and the lovely Joyce Lewis. Thank you. I will now turn the mic over for our program. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you, thank you. All right. Everybody. My members are supposed to introduce themselves and say a few things. Have you ever been to the church where they say, you may have a few words? And 30 minutes later. We're going to contain ourselves. We're not going to do that. At this time, we're going to begin with the person telling their introduction. If you cannot hear them, they're all going to come to the mic because we have to be heard. Here we go.
I think you can hear me. Everyone can hear me. My name is Bernadette Whitson, and I am a school psychologist. I'm retired. I worked with the Charlottesville City Schools for over 27 years. I also worked with schools in Richmond, Virginia, and in Providence, Rhode Island. I am a native of Charlottesville. I attended the public schools here, so that gives you some background in terms of how I may relate to what you're gonna see this. Thank you for coming.
I'm Madison Cummings and I won't stand, I have reasons to do that. I'm a retired pharmacist and have been here, my wife and I have been here. We've been here since 1970 and have loved living in Charlottesville. I grew up in Lexington, Rutgers County. And this has been a very worthwhile, right, Jim? Group this DEI committee. I know DEI is not supposed to be mentioned. But anyway. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Joyce Lewis. I'm a native of Southampton County, Virginia. I've been here in Charlottesville for a very long time. Retired guidance counselor from Western Albemarle High School. I've enjoyed this community. I've learned a lot. It's been a pleasure to be here. I thank you all for coming.
We have one member who is missing. Her name is Kathy.
Oh, Canada. She's in Canada.
Vacation. And her name is Kathy Rouse. She is, an individual who grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. She went to Middlebury College in Vermont. She majored in sociology / anthropology, and she minored in education. Her first teaching position was in Baltimore, Maryland, and later she taught in Columbia, Maryland. She moved here in 2018 from Asheville, North Carolina.
And we'll give her a clap.
Yeah.
All the way to Canada.
Hi, I'm Berta Heiso. I'm a little old white lady who's been involved with DEI before it was called DEI. Having been involved at a college in New England and being one of the original members of this committee back in the early 2000s. And it's been a joy to see it grow. And what a joy to see you all here.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Reynolds, and I am an implant because really I was an Army brat. And so my mom and dad are originally from Henry County, which is near the Martinsville Speedway, which is near Martinsville, which is down the road from Danville, which is still down the road from Roanoke. And so when we would go out to European countries where he was stationed and come back in, I went out into an integrated military and back into a segregated lifestyle here in the United States. So I would just say to you, I have been a firefighter. I have worked at Virginia Tech, control yourselves. I've worked at Virginia Tech Forward Bound. I was a recruiter and a counselor. I taught at Albemarle High School. I then opened Monticello High School 25 years ago. I have retired and I still got some horror. So I'm very happy to be with you this evening, and I hope that you will enjoy our presentation. Our presentation today really sets up the truth, the uncomfortable truth about how massive resistance was used in the state of Virginia and how it was used really nationally, federally, and in our area right here. So everything that you see can apply to you, even though you're not from here. So we want you to pay attention and listen. And if you don't mind, I want you to look at the questions. You have a little sticky pad. And while you're doing that, because we're gonna take a break. Nobody wants to sit and look at something but for so long. We gotta re-snack. We gotta re-drink our little drinks, re-advise ourselves, use the bathroom. And the first question is, what do you remember or relate to in the documentary surrounding your educational experiences? And I know some of you have the experience of being a teacher, bringing students into a school, as well as being a parent with students coming into school. Number two, how do we speak to uncomfortable truths in our conversation about education today? What would you have wanted to better understand and to know about massive resistance after viewing the document? As you look back and reflect, you can think on that. How have social, economic, and racial inequalities in education continued into the present era? And on the last question, Bernadette, will you read it to me?
Why is it important to acknowledge these educational experiences?
All right, we shall begin. When we dim the lights, don't close your eyes. I'll bring you some iced coffee.
For those who are watching this after the fact, the video we're going to show is called Locked Out: The Fall of Massive Resistance, and it's available on PBS. We're not recording that. We don't have the rights to do that. So just wanted to let you know that.
All right, I'm gonna do a little countdown. I will try to not do it like, we're all in our places with sunshiny faces. Who remembers that? This is the way to start a new day. Oh my goodness, that was it. And we all knew we'd get back to where we were. Now it's you clap and then you clap 3 times. And they got all kinds of signals now. I love to watch the kids know what the signals are. All right. Now, as much as we would wish, but when you have a large group of people, you really have to be very smart about how you put these things up. Also, the people on Zoom cannot hear us unless you come to the mic to talk about something or reflect on something. So I think it behooves me, after I get you all, to take your little sticky note and put it beside something. Pick a question, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And put a little note down for what you identify with. What do you remember or relate to in the documentary surrounding your educational experiences? Some people tell me that I lived in New Hampshire, or I lived in another place. The people around me, we didn't experience that like that. But guess what? Why didn't you hear about it?
We didn't hear about it either.
Right? What do you remember or relate to the documentary? I don't remember any of it. It didn't happen to me. So if that's you, I'll be a little sticky note up there and say, that wasn't my experience because we weren't told. It didn't come on my news. It wasn't in our paper. All right. That could be a way to get to the question. How do we speak to uncomfortable? Why am I losing the mic? I love mics. What's it doing? All right, I'm trying to keep it in the right spot. How do we speak to uncomfortable truths in our conversations about education today? Now, only people that I know, and I often wonder why senators and other people are talking about education when you haven't been in the classroom. You haven't been by to see us in over 50 or 60 years. And you think school is the same thing like when you went to school. That is not it. A pencil is an artifact. Soon it will be in a museum. No one will know what it is. So the conversation has to be, what do you really know? Uncomfortable truths in our conversation about, and what makes it uncomfortable is when the little girl, when the grown woman is relating back to their childhood, do you feel that fear? Or the boy saying, we just wanted to sit down. Why do people hate us so? And for most of you, that if you continue to read the Little Rock Nine written by, oh, I can't think of her name, but her book, she talks about they all didn't know it, but they had post-traumatic stress syndrome. And they went for years without knowing why they had all these problems connecting with people. They didn't want to make close relationships and so things like that. So when I'm saying this about school today, we really don't know about school today as much as you should, but we build all of these things. How do we speak to what education really is today? How do we begin to look at that? And how did this affect how education looks today? Massive resistance. What would you have wanted to better understand and to know about massive resistance? So as you're viewing it and you're thinking about it, if it didn't happen to you or it did happen to you, what would you have wanted to know better about it? Because a lot of kids, their parents just said, you're going. A lot of kids, we're going to integrate the school system. This is the way we move forward and you're going to go. So that's another thing you need to know. A lot of kids just went because their parents said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make this society better. We're going to make things better for ourselves. So maybe that would be a question you'd like to answer. And how have social, economic, and racial inequalities, my real concern with DEI and the way people are perceiving it today is they relate it to race. Diversity, equity, and inclusion means that I could be a rural country person that likes to ride 4-wheelers and hunt and got some hunting dogs, and I live on a farm. And just so you know, I've done that. And when I tell my kids, no, Miss Reynolds, I was rural when we came. My mom and them had land and we were all, and we had a farm and, you know, we did the pigs and the hogs and the chickens and they looked at me like, huh? What? You think we can't, we're not, we hunt, we fish. We went on a farm. Okay, and so those are some things. So it's about the inequities that we find in everybody's culture. I don't care where you're from, who you are, Western European, Eastern European, Asian, whatever it is, that is diversity. So I think that's one of the problems because Virginia, because of massive resistance, I think we tend to see black and white. Uh-huh. Yes, it's not just in Virginia, thank you. And then as we go down, my last question is one I think everybody can answer. Read it to me again and I'll read it back.
Why is it important to acknowledge these educational experiences?
And so why is it important to acknowledge these educational experiences? Some of you did not have that experience. Some of you did not know that was happening like this. Some of you did know it was happening and your parents were a part of it happening. And some people had to overcome what was happening, both white and black. Can you imagine you could not go to school for a year? Parents, y'all would have picked me up from my house and said, come teach my kid, please. Did you see what happened when COVID hit? Did you see? So take some time. Let's take about 7 minutes. I like that 7 minutes. No. Let's take 7 minutes and start putting your comments up if you have something you want to put up there. And if you have another question, like something really kind of surprised you, you put it there. For my people on Zoom, just put it here in the chat and we'll go from there if you had something that you wanted to as well. And we'll get back to that. We'll read a few of them. You all, 8 o'clock is the magic hour. I don't know what happened. But they need us to kind of be going out of the parking lot at 8, not out of the building. So at about 7:45, we'll make our way, okay? All right. You have 7 minutes.
Are there more post-it notes?
All right, everybody on Zoom and everybody in the room. We are going to collect this information. We'll look over what you have talked about. And we have another series for you. Bernadette, what's the name of it? What we doing next?
It's still segregation and education.
You gotta come to the mic because they.
Is section 2 is still gonna focus on segregation in the state of Virginia. However, we're gonna be focusing on Charlottesville. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society's interviews of Black students who experienced the segregation. We're gonna be showing some of those interviews and discussing them.
All
And that is
students.
called No Playbook.
All students, we have white students, we have people that,
Yeah,
yes, it's
well,
all students that
Yes,
were involved.
And in fact, even some administrators,
Mm.
but they're really poignant stories that we would like to share with some of the stories with.
What is the date?
August 21st, same time, 6 to 8.
Well, I hope everybody got that information. You all, it's just a little bit more to this film. I thought the film was well done. You know, I'm looking at it from a teacher perspective. How could I teach that to a class of learners from the 9th to the 12th grade? What would that look like? How do you, because you all, a lot of people need, after you view things like this that show difference, you have to be sure to take that pain away, that hurt from people. And to do that, you've got to really be good at your job of teaching. And so you want to make sure people understand that was how it was. And this is what we have to do. Where are you moving forward to? What do you hope for? You know, it's always being hopeful that takes them to the next place. We'll look at till the end, it really ends quickly, and then au revoir. Don't you just love the Olympics? I can get off topic in a minute, back.
We got mail from all over the world. We got wonderful letters from people. The mail that was addressed to my sisters and I was always good. It was just what you would read in the papers, you know, like the letters to the editor. Now they were something else. And they didn't even need to write it, but they did. It was how they felt.
It really hurts to realize somebody don't like you because of your color, or they don't want you to have the same type of education as the white student. That does hurt.
If I'd be walking down the hall, I remember they would try to trip you. And another time I went to the fountain to get a drink of water, and this person was in front of me and they spat in the water. Of course, I walked away, you know, so I couldn't get a drink. So there were lots of little mean things that they continued to do. And every morning when I'd have to get up to go to school, you get that sick feeling in your stomach because of the way we were treated.
And when we would get ready to get on the bus in the evening, I can remember white kids were throwing rocks at us as we got on the bus to go home.
You're treating me like I'm less than a human being. And that part, it hurt, but it makes you angry. So, you know, when you get angry, you fight back. If we were to fight physically, that would convey to the white parents, this is the way black people act. And that's not the way we act. But we didn't have the same opportunities that the white students had, because even in Warren County High, we couldn't go to the prom. They said it's just a dance. Our first graduate couldn't graduate there. It was just ridiculous.
Although the courts had ruled massive resistance laws unconstitutional, Prince Edward County had found a loophole. They decided to eliminate public education in favor of a private school system. Prince Edward County closed all their public schools, including the black schools, in the fall of 1959.
You know, we were kind of all in denial. Oh, no, they'll never shut the schools down. They can't do that. You know, people have to go to school. Sure enough, schools didn't reopen.
Then me living so close to the school and seeing them locked down with chains, I mean, you know, I mean, you don't have a question about it, then you know that our schools are closed. They built a school called Prince Edward Academy. It was for white kids only. So they had a school to go to, and we didn't. That was painful. To think that somebody would build a school for one group of kids and not care whether the other group had an education or not.
Those schools cost tuition. And if you were a poor white dirt farmer in Prince Edward County, you couldn't afford to send your child to that school. And so either you had somebody that could feel your pain, or because of that pain, they disliked you even more because you caused this to happen. This whole idea of a separate private school system for the white population was also being supported by donations from not only within Prince Edward County and Virginia, but many, and most of the other southern states. So Prince Edward County was almost like a litmus test. You know, if this survives, if this succeeds, then so goes the rest of the South.
Oliver Hill and Spotswood Robinson, who had worked hard to desegregate Virginia's public education, were fighting to open the Prince Edward County schools.
I went with Oliver Hill and Spotswood Robinson up to Farmville when they had church meetings up there. When we came out there with Ku Klux Klans across the street, you know, and I said, what do I get into up here? Oliver Hill and them went up there and they were not afraid to meet and all, you know. And that's why I greatly respected Oliver Hill and Robinson for what they had to fight and go through at these small community meetings and so forth. The risk that they took to getting out there doing what they did. So there was a lot of resistance at that time. He went before the General Assembly in Richmond and shook his fist and said, "This is wrong, you're not going to have it." His message was powerful, and that's something that we said, you know, that's why I always admired him for what he did.
Volunteers offered free schools, but it wasn't until a court ruling in 1964 when public education was offered again in Prince Edward County.
How long has it been since you waved for a school bus before?
4 years.
4 years. Been to school at all in that time?
No, sir.
How's it feel to get back now?
Well, the way I feel great. I mean, when I was going to school, I used to love it, and I still do. I want to go to school very much.
To come back into an integrated school system, it was basically integrated to me by name only because coming back in 1964, I think at the high school we had 2 whites to join the ranks of about maybe 550.
I stayed at home for 2 years without any education at all. That 3rd year, the Brown Scout leader came to my home and asked my mother, could I go away to school, or someone had found someone for me to live with. And that was how I got to get my education.
My brother younger than I am. He graduated from this high school here. My other 2 brothers that was in school during that time, they never had the opportunity to go to school. Never. They were in the 7th grade when school shut down. Now, for some of the other people in the community, they didn't even go back to school. A lot of my cousins, my friends, wherever they stopped, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, that was it.
It was a combination of experiences that we had. You had guys and girls graduating at 20, 21, 22 years old. From high school, they hung in there, you know. What was challenging is the student that did not see a classroom until they were 10 years old. I can't imagine how that would have affected me. Sitting in a classroom with someone that's 6, not knowing how to read and write as I should. And right today, that scar still exists in a lot of people because of that type of experience.
Well, now you're back home again. How did it go today?
I enjoyed myself today. I like going to school. I always did. And I feel great, about going back again.
There was no real integration. There was desegregation. And for years, the public school boards managed to enforce a program of tokenism. And there was struggle for years after massive resistance.
When you look at all of what was happening prior to setting the black man free, so to speak, by signing the Civil Rights Act in 1964, you have all of this occurring. You're still trying to make, in essence, 100 years worth of progress a reality.
We've gone from absolute segregation before Brown v. Board of Education to mandated judicial integration that took 20 years to happen, a Voting Rights Act that finally established voting rights for African Americans, civil rights laws that opened up hotels and restaurants and everything else to African Americans, and now finally we're achieving some cultural integration.
In 1989, 30 years after closing the schools, Virginia was the first state in the nation to elect an African American governor.
So that I can say to you today that I am a son of Virginia. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
As the first election of an African American of any state in the Union was a symbol of a magnificent change for the better.
I had people who would tell me, for instance, they said, no, I never voted for an African American, but they never had a chance.
When Wilder ran, there was a hidden white vote that would not vote for an African American candidate. And it happened in New York, it's happened in Chicago, it's happened in California with Tom Bradley's races, it's happened in a lot of places. But it didn't happen in 2008. And again, the cultural changes are ongoing and they're cumulative. And I think to some degree they're accelerating.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
50 years after massive resistance, Barack Obama carried Virginia on his way to becoming the first African-American president of the United States.
I did not think I would ever see it. I figured, well, I'd be long gone, maybe my children. That was the best day of my life.
I never did think that I would live to see a black man as president, to be very honest.
I would never have thought it. And I think anybody who says honestly that they believed that it would have happened, I don't think they would tell the truth.
The God-given promise that all are equal, all are free, and all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness.
I mean, I knew most black people would be happy, but to see the number of white people who were crying and who were so happy about this and who seemed to be so hopeful about America. Now, that was exciting to me.
I was excited when America elected Barack Obama, but I also saw and heard the aftermath. Oh, now we're fine. We don't have any racial problems. And I thought, my goodness, we've sort of leapt to that conclusion.
It's still ways to go, you know, till everything is really equal all across the board.
It's a hopeful future, but people have to be honest about evaluating the problems, not push anything under the rug.
The 70th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, His Excellency, the Honorable Timothy M. King.
50 years later, Governor King would travel from Richmond, come to the church where the Norfolk 17 had been educated, and apologize for the acts of Governor Almond.
And so to those of you who were denied that opportunity 50 years ago, on behalf of the Commonwealth, I do apologize to you.
In the room when the governor spoke, I mean, there were 14 of the 17 were there. These folks are still in our community.
As mayor of the city of Norfolk, I take this opportunity to express my profound regret to the Norfolk 17, their family members, and to the African American community of Norfolk for the wrongs committed against you and to all who suffered through these difficult times.
It was time. You know, we apologize for what happened to you. We wanted to close some wounds, but also demonstrate how far we've come as a community.
If you want a measure of how society has changed, just understand that the Richmond newspapers promoted massive resistance in the 1950s, and by 2009, they apologized for it. That in itself is a great sign of progress.
I think it's been 5 years ago that I was invited to the class reunion, and my class president apologized. I was in tears because they didn't really do anything. They did what their parents told them to do. And you see, I still hardly can talk about it.
Now if you look at the schools, you know, the kids don't know what this is all about. I mean, they just take it as normal that you go to the closest school in your neighborhood, you know, regardless of what the color of your skin or anything.
We integrated the schools because we didn't have a school. So it's very important to get your education, you know, because we paved the way for you to be able to go to school. Because if we didn't do it, you might not have a school.
Going to the public schools wasn't just automatic.
There was people that sacrificed, that gave up a lot, that really made a major impact.
We paved the way for the rest of these students who are doing everything now. They're standing on our shoulders. We opened the door for them. And when I think about what we've been through, that's what makes me so proud. That I was one of the ones who helped open this door.
It was worth it. It was definitely worth it. We've got a long way to go yet, but we have come so far.
Think about it a little more. And thank you. Thank you. All right. Take a snack with you. You know what you're gonna, don't be driving. What did they put up? Is it on? Yeah. 21st. See, guys. Sorry, the next section. Oh, sorry. 3:20. Yeah, I'll take care of Hey, let me get you on the podcast. How's things going? I'm actually gonna be teaching at the beginning of the year for you today. I know, I definitely, you don't know, like I gotta get up and I need to do this and I have a schedule for the job.